Started at 6, I got 6:34 p.m. Monday, June 17th, 2013. I got roll call. Mr. Lepine,
Here.
Mr. Turner, absent, and Percy Griffin, present. Kirk, you want to lead us in
Sure.
pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is an update by Mr. Jim Peoples, internal auditor regarding ongoing audit. Mr. Peoples. Got a copy, Mr. Russell.
All right, the first thing that I'm reporting on is our audit of sales taxes for the year ended 2012. Basically, this audit was pretty clean. It appears that the sales tax department is doing a good job of collecting and accounting for sales taxes. The internal controls in that area seem to be very good and seem to be followed. Would like to point out to you that there was somewhat of a decline in sales tax collections this year. The parish government share of sales taxes for the year was approximately $17.4 million, and that compares to $19.2 million the previous year. And the primary reasons for the decrease appear to be that in the previous year there were a number of large audit collections, and we just didn't have as many large collections this year. Some years there are some significant collections, other years there aren't. The other thing is that the BP oil spill, which occurred in 2010, there were a lot of equipment and supply purchases in connection with that in 2010 and 2011, and we didn't have so much of that in 2012. So those appear to be the primary reasons for the decline in sales taxes.
This is from the 7 to the 19, that's when the oil spill was, correct? From 7,
Well, yeah, the oil spill was in 2010.
2010.
right.
Right.
So it increased from 7 million to 19 million.
And a large part of that increase was the new sales tax for the fire department.
Oh, okay, so that was included in that, okay.
Right.
That generated, okay.
So that's generating around $8 to $9 million
Okay.
a year.
All right.
Yourself. So that gives you a false cushion.
So that's it right here, okay, I got you. 9 million, 8 million. Yeah, I'll take a picture of that, I'll take that.
The next area that I'd like to report on is our audit of cash balances and bank reconciliations. Again, that was a fairly clean audit. What we've done is we've reviewed the reconciliations for all bank accounts and determined they're all properly reconciled. checks are properly accounted for. We've also looked at the allocations of the pooled accounts into various other general ledger accounts, and then summarize the totals to the financial statements to make sure that the financial statements this year are consistent with previous years. The significant thing that I would like to bring to your attention is cash and investments for all funds total approximately $154 million at December 31st, 2012, compared to $90 million at December 31st, 2011. So that's an increase of about $64 million.
Where you getting
But
those
of
numbers?
that,
Where you getting those numbers? You said 90 million, where is that?
Right here on this page. From 154 to 90 million the year before. To include the
Okay.
present.
okay, and it's also shown on the last page of this detail schedule that I have of all bank accounts. The schedule that's attached to the report shows all the bank accounts that the parish has.
This one
As
here?
yes.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, the total cash and investments increased about $64 million, but there was an $85 million increase that's from the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority bonds. That's money that has not been spent as of December 31st, 2012. So if you take that into consideration, there was actually a decline in total cash. If you don't consider that, the decline in total cash was about $21 million. And according to Lori Myers, the finance manager, she thinks that increase is due primarily to expenditures resulting from Hurricane Isaac.
You know what the bond was for?
That was my next question.
The coastal restoration.
That 65 million bonds included?
Well, the total amount that is in these accounts is $85 million.
We floated 65 million for the coastal restoration and
What's that?
25 for the
itself.
quarter. So
25, so that's,
there should be
90.
90.
Okay, well, so apparently some of the funds were spent as of December 31st.
but then, or they spend some of the money out of the $65 million bond?
Yeah, we have spent some money out of that. We should have.
We know they didn't spend none of the
Mr.
bond for the courthouse.
No.
Okay, now keep in mind that these numbers are as of December 31st, they're not current numbers.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's 6 months ago.
When was that bond approved? That was
Betty's
in-
got a question if you want to answer.
This is what we just finished auditing, was the cash and bank balances that are gonna be in the financial statements, and there's a schedule attached.
Mr. Russo, you had a question?
I was just gonna make a recommendation in my mind that $65 million coastal fund money, I think that y'all should encourage the auditor to do a report on that $65 million to let you know what is obligated and expended and
What's
how
left?
much fund that's there, and to see how many contracts are actually signed on against that $65 million.
Okay.
And I think that would be something that.
Give you an explanation of where the money at. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Mr. Peters.
The next area that I'd like to report on is manpower reports. I'm passing out manpower reports for April and May, which gets us current on those reports.
Excuse me 1 second.
Sure.
Go back to this just 1 second.
The very first one in the general fund approved account. It's showing,
Zero.
7.7 million, right?
That was the balance, it was in the bank. There were outstanding checks of about 1.1 million. So that the reconciled balance of that pooled account was about 6.6 million. And then part of that was allocated from the general fund to other funds. And so that the allocation of the various pooled accounts is shown in the next few columns. And then when you get over to the column that says December 31st, 2012 general ledger balance, that's the final balance which will be in the financial statements.
Just 5 million?
That 5 million. And actually there are quite a few accounts that add up to a total of $23 million for the general fund.
So how much should we have in the general fund? This was as of December the 31st.
This was as of December the 31st.
$23 million should have been in general fund.
$23 million cash, and the investment balance was $875,000.
What line? What line is that?
Right
23 million, where you seeing?
Right here. I did the
Toward
total right
general
here.
fund?
I got you. Okay. Let me ask
If you
you.
go down to the end of the report, you'll see the totals for all funds.
Okay. What did they have in capital improvements? Capital improvement projects?
If you'll turn over to the second page, there's a section called Capital Projects Funds.
Okay.
And so all the general ledger accounts are listed.
So in capital improvement funds, it's $103 million.
That's correct.
Correct. Is?
What are you looking at, Mr. Turner?
Right here, right on the second page.
Okay.
All right. Now,
Now, a large portion of that is the bond money that we discussed earlier. If you look down to
okay, take the bond money out.
the unexpended bond money,
The
yes.
bond money, you were saying about 60,000, 5 was spent, or let's say 65.
You got 59 on here, and then you got 24 for the courthouse. I guess that's minus interest or payment or something.
Let's say 50 million, or 30 million, 20 million.
I think it's pretty close to 85.
This is about 80,
Okay,
85.
so here's where I'm going with it.
it's about 85 million, yeah.
Okay, that's why it's this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the capital improvement projects, we put capital improvement projects on the table every year. At the beginning of the, November, December, when we do the budget hearing, we budget money in capital improvement projects for the next year. And if there is not a shortfall in revenues, then we should have all of the money for capital improvement projects. Right? Right.
We'll have to get Lori in here to explain that.
Right. No,
We asked Lord to come to the next
let's
meeting.
say it again.
Simple math.
That's right. If we, in the budget, we say, based on anticipated revenues, we will fund these capital improvement projects.
Mm-hmm.
If at the end of the year, there was not a shortfall in revenues, then all of those projects should be funded.
Right.
Especially if the projects weren't completed.
Right, the projects should be funded. So here's what I think is going on, and here's why this doesn't add up. Because again, if we have 103 million in capital improvement projects, then by George, we should have at least 103 million.
Minus 85 in the bonds, that would leave you with 20 million.
Okay.
Matter of fact, gonna give you 18 million.
Okay, but still, we should have that, and then the capital improvement projects, most of those are in a pooled account, right?
I don't know exactly where that money is.
My point is, when we look at, again, what we have in capital improvement projects,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the year, if there was not a shortfall, we should have that money. But here's what's going on, or what I think is going on. It's being regenerated every year. And so, yeah, it doesn't change on the books. It gets carried over, but you shouldn't have to generate it the next year. The only new money in capital improvements that we should be collecting would be the new capital improvement projects that we put on the table. And if there's no shortfall during the year, if the all revenues come in, the sales taxes come in, if there's no shortfall in the revenues, then every single capital improvement project should be funded. The money should be right there at the end of the year, if we didn't have a shortfall. And so when I look at these numbers, I'm seeing $103 million in capital improvement projects, and I'm only seeing in the pooled accounts, and I'm thinking of pooled accounts, that's those accounts that, those saving accounts that set up, they pool the money together so that we can make a little money off of it. But the bottom line, at the end of the day, we should have all of that money. Now, Laurie will say, Mr. Turner, you don't understand, that's cash. That's right. If the monies came in, the revenues came in at the end of the year, I should have the cash. Am I missing something, Mr. Russo?
Mr. Turner,
Tell me if I am.
my 8 years here, I argued with Laurie on that same subject many times. Never won. So,
Well,
I'm going to tell you.
we've got to change the way we do business here. If we're generating the money in a year, that money shouldn't go away, and the next year you have to generate it all over again. I don't care if you call it cash on hand or what you call it. So that's my point. I just saw the gap. I just saw the number where it says, pooled accounts, 7 million. So I'm saying, okay, how much do we have in capital improvement? If we had 103 million in capital improvement, then maybe that's more than just the pooled accounts we should be looking at, but somewhere at the end of the year, we should have had all the capital improvement money.
But in reality though, you're showing 7 million, 7 plus in pool account, and you show 103 million in capital improvement. But there's two projects in there, in my sense, where you have a $65 million bond, which they only show 59 million here, and a $25 million bond for the courthouse, which only show 24. So in reality, there's only about $18 million left in capital improvement. So there's $11 million that's not showing on here because you're only showing 7. So 7 from 18 is 11.
Somewhere in the budget.
I don't have the budget in front of me. If my math is right on this, at the end of December 2011, we had about roughly $28 million of cash and investments listed under capital project funds.
Same page in the capital
Same
improvement?
page, yeah. If you look all the way to the right and add those two numbers, 20.8 million and 7.8 million. So that's roughly $28 million. And then if you look at the 2012 numbers, those add up to about 107, 108 million, something like that. And if you back out the 85 million, that gets you to about 23. So there's a decline there from 28 million to 23 million from 2011 to 2012.
So it's different about $5 million.
About $5 million. Now, part of the reason that you're talking about regenerating funds, a lot of the money just stays in those accounts because it wasn't spent, and it rolls over to the following year.
So it rolls over, but at the same time, seeing the problem that I have with it, gentlemen, is that when they put it in a pool account, but that's not just a cash kitty, and it can be used that way, especially in emergencies. That money, we as a council should make sure that that money is designated so that it can't be touched, not just on paper,
Right.
but
A
in
line
its
item.
account. Now, even if you pool all of those accounts, but the capital improvement accounts, but you don't want that to be touched. And if on the operational side, they need to touch it, well, then we make a decision to do so. But at some point, all of these projects need to be funded, not just on paper, but cash in hand. If there was no shortfall year after year. Am I missing something, Mr. Peoples?
No, what you're saying makes sense. A lot of this money is either designated or restricted. I don't have the details with me, I don't have the financial statements with me. We would need Lori to point that out. I'm not saying it all is, but a good portion of it is.
And I understand that. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, on capital improvement projects, that money should be on hand.
Right. And we shouldn't be scuffling right now looking for dollars to
Right.
spend for those projects.
That's right.
Because
But
those
what ends up
things have been
happening is
budgeted.
You camouflage it when you put it in a pool account, because then it's just in a pooled account. But the money that's in those pooled accounts come from different projects.
Mm-hmm.
There's,
What I'm,
Let me ask this. If you go back and look at what you adopted in 2012 for your capital improvement budget for 2013, that dollar figure there shows you what's funded. And if that should match up to what you fund this year. Now, you know, when y'all come along and add a project and add money to that kitty as a capital improvement project, naturally it goes up that number. But what I'm getting confused here about is that you're thinking that for some reason every year you reappropriate money for that same project?
you're not reappropriating it on paper, it carries over, but you're raising it again. It's all in the pooled account, right? That's
Well, you know,
no.
my opinion,
Let- let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
Look at the column that says allocation of a pooled account.
Okay.
Where is that?
That's in about the middle of the page.
which page are you on?
I'm on
Page 2.
page 2. There's only about $3 million that's being allocated between these funds. And it's on capital project funds, it nets to zero.
Mm-hmm.
So the pool account really doesn't have any effect at all on the capital project funds.
Say that again about the net to zero, these,
Okay, look at the
$3
column that
million.
says 1231. Okay, you see that column that says 3,083,000, and then the numbers below that for various other accounts, they net to zero.
okay.
And these are just to get the fund balances to the amounts that belong in these specific general ledger accounts. But most of these numbers are in actual bank accounts or investment accounts.
So-
And they're probably restricted to
Let me
use
ask you this.
for these particular projects.
At the
I would
end-
have to have Lori here to give you the
Last question
specifics on that.
Last question on it. At the end of December, in December 2012, at the end of the year, we're showing 107 million here. Did
Yeah.
we have 107 million in cash for capital improvement projects? Apart from operating anything else in this government, did we have 107 million? Because we didn't have a shortfall in 2012. Cash on hand, did we have 107 million?
Yes.
That was just for capital improvement projects.
It's in these general ledger accounts, yes, for capital improvement projects.
So we had 107 million. How much did we have at the end of the year in cash? Do you know?
Well-
Is it recorded anywhere on this sheet?
Yes.
Okay, where?
It's roughly $154 million. We've got, you go down to the bottom.
Okay,
We've got $148 million worth of cash and $6.2 million of investments.
wait, I'm seeing the 150 on that same page,
Right here.
Mr. Peoples?
Look at the bottom.
I see the 150.
The last two
48,
columns are
those two-
2011,
those
the
two.
two before that are 2012.
Okay, the 148.
Yeah, that's our total cash, and then the number next to it is investments that are money that's in Louisiana asset management pool accounts.
Okay. All right. I said that was my only question.
If you need further explanation, we'll have to get more ready.
Could Lori come in next meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna act it. And what we need for her to do, because we 6 months into the year, If she could bring us the balance of every checking account that the bank, that the parish have, that we have at Region Bank and all these different things, to show us exactly how much money in each one of those accounts.
We need to be planning a mid-year budget review. We failed to do it last year. I'm gonna use the word fail, we not just didn't do it. As a governing body, one, we owe it to the constituents, you know, and to be fiscally responsible, we need to be doing, at least do a mid-year review. You're not gonna do a review nowhere during the year. You know, then shame on us. And so, and let's not let the review take place in September, and then we coming right back and doing the budget hearings, you know, 2-3 months later. So right now, we need to be setting a date for a mid-year budget.
You could do one next month, July. Let's say it, what's the fourth Tuesday in July? Or fourth Monday in July?
No, but this is something that the whole council takes, not just us, but this is something that the council, unless they're gonna do a mid-year budget review with the audit committee first, that's what you're talking, and then we're gonna set up the date for mid-year budget hearings, let's say first week of August, and so they've got a month and a half to get the books, administration, to get everything in place, you know, as far as the budget, so we know where we stand.
So that's first week in August.
But the council, you know, the audit committee can make
But
that
we have to notify the
recommendation.
council of that date.
But we can have a recommendation come from the audit committee, but the council would be,
We have to be a resolution to set the dates.
right, resolution to set dates.
So we need to do something before we go before the council, right?
It's not necessary, normally we don't.
Okay.
Normally the council just selects a time for mid-year budget hearings.
Okay.
But to drive it, to make sure it happened, and we don't run into what happened last year, the audit committee, you know, we can pass legislation saying, recommending that budget hearings be held the first week of August.
Okay.
Something that day, and then if they can't, fine, we make adjustments along the way, but at least we're giving them a time frame, y'all pick the
Right.
dates.
Okay.
If due to schedule, it needs to be the second week, okay, we do it the second week.
That sounds good enough for me.
I make a motion, that budget hearings be set within the first 2 weeks of August.
Okay. A motion has been made by Mr. Burgard Turner that we have a budget review. set-
Budget hearing.
Budget
Mid-year
hearing.
budget hearings.
Mid-year budget
Mid-year
has
budget
set the second week, you say?
Within the first.
First 2
between
weeks.
first and
Okay, I'll
second-
be out of
by
town.
August 15th.
By August 15th.
The whole first week I'll be out of town of August.
Okay, well, then that's
I
it.
just wanna let you
What you gonna
know.
do? The
Well, that's
third?
the second
The
for
fourth
second
through the
week,
eighth or
correct.
whatever I might,
Second week?
okay.
Okay, the second week of August.
The eighth is that council meeting too that week, so we wouldn't have it the eighth.
It would be
Week.
the 12th,
Okay.
Yeah.
What day?
August 12th.
Our first council meeting in August is the eighth.
You be here for August the 12th?
I'll be here for the 12th, yeah,
Okay.
but I wouldn't be here for that council meeting up in the eighth.
I've got a
Okay.
calendar in here.
It's been motion, we get a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lepine, all by saying yes or no? All in favor? Mr. Turner?
You know, which day we settled on?
The 12th?
12th.
12, okay.
You be available?
I'll be working those first 2 days, but I'll make adjustments.
Okay.
So, in favor.
Mr. Lepine?
Yes.
Mr. Clifford, yes. Okay. Got that straight.
Is that for it to be presented to the audit committee or to the council?
No, we want the council, our next council meeting, once we pass it in, Kim will distribute it to the entire council, and then it's up to the council to put on the agenda to set the dates, sometimes the second week, August 12th, whatever we can find.
Right. That's the Monday of August,
Okay,
the second Monday in August.
that'll work.
The eighth actually is our council meeting day, that Thursday, so you wouldn't wanna have it that week of the council meeting day.
Right. If we could do it on.
The second week
Let me
would,
ask you this, does it have to be Monday? Could we do it, Wednesday, start on a Wednesday?
I have no problem with it.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind what we passed, the legislation setting the date for the 12th. And can we vote on that, rescinding and just making it the
would did we just say the first week, second week?
We can leave it as is. The
Yeah, cause we,
council can-
yeah, we can adjust it.
Let it
Cause we
float
said
and
the
see where
second
we
week,
go.
we didn't set a date though, did we?
Right,
No, she did, I thought, did you?
no,
Yeah, I was just saying that was the week of the 12th.
Oh,
The
the
week
second.
of the
I
12th,
misunderstood
the
it.
week of the
Yeah.
12th, so.
so we got time to play with it to see exactly what date
Okay.
it's in. All right.
Huh?
Okay,
Alright.
people,
Okay, these are the manpower reports for April and May. And also there was some questions at the last meeting about vacancies.
Yeah, so all the
So
vacancies.
there's a list of
all the vacancies.
vacancies as well as of the end of May.
We can scratch out council secretary.
I'll have to get a copy to you, that's my last one.
So it's all of this, Mr. Peters? So it's that.
Well, the two reports, the manpower reports for April and May, there weren't any significant changes, no positions added or deleted during that period. All increases were just normal merit increases or transfers or promotions for
On this,
completion of the work test period. But the vacancies on this schedule are these are the funded vacancies as of May 31st, 2013, and the date that that vacancy was created, or the date that it occurred.
this people, on this, manpower, did it show, what employees, receive, increase in pay?
Yes. If you look, let's just start with the second page, or the first page.
Which report you looking at, Mr. Peters?
Just any of the manpower reports. What they show is the amount of the annual salary funded as of the beginning or as of the end of the previous month, and any changes
Okay,
during the month, the dollar change and the percent of the change. And we have any changes that are shown on the report are footnoted as to what they're for.
okay.
First change I'm looking at is, if you go to page 5,
Which month are we looking at?
see what this is.
This is April 30th, I'm on it. I'm gonna miss. I hit the top. What month you on?
I'm in May.
Okay, I've got
Go to
that
May.
too.
Alright,
Page
Okay.
5, Christopher Taylor, 4.6% increase.
Okay, so that's a
And
change.
that was a merit increase.
Yeah.
And then there's another, let's not mention any names
Yeah.
for increases, but
Yeah,
there's another merit increase below that on this page.
okay.
And if there had
Public
been
awareness.
any new positions added by council ordinance or deleted by council ordinance, they would also show on here with footnotes as to what those positions are.
Okay,
And people that quit, people that transfer, whatever the reason for the change is, we've got footnoted.
at the
in
bottom,
manpower
we'll be at the
report.
bottom of the page.
And we give that to you each month, and it gives you an opportunity to look at a complete employee listing. And whereas some parishes might have a problem with fictitious employees, this is a public record that anybody can look at. And, hopefully if there was a fictitious employee, somebody would bring that to our attention.
I got you. Okay,
And, the other control there is all changes are basically approved by civil service as well. And so there's a form signed by civil service and a form signed by the form is signed by civil service and the department head and also the parish president. So it would be very difficult to have a fictitious.
now, are there any non-civil service people also be listed in there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
And Mr. Griffin, the reason you've seen certain changes and not others is because the merit increase, that's based on their anniversary date.
right.
So it's gonna be showing at different times.
And requirements and which aren't, he's working on that.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll have that for the next
Next
meeting.
meeting. Okay.
Something on this report, vacant positions.
Mm-hmm. Come on, go way back.
I think those, when you look at the judges, position, city and ward,
That's the
The
constable.
constable is an elected official,
Right.
there's nobody in that position.
but you look at the
Courthouse security.
judges, okay, August 2012, just look at these old one,
2009, yeah, that's it. Okay.
okay, that's that constable seat. I guess where I'm going at is, if we've got a position that's been vacant over a year, then we need to pull the funding from it. If they haven't filled the position, because if not, then what ends up happening is the money can be used, it can be used in that department.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you should pull the funding, and then if the position is needed, have the department head come back and justify it.
Right.
Right.
But
See,
they got,
most of these aren't that.
We got a total almost $2
they
million
got 4 or
of
5 of them right
unfunded
here
positions.
that's over 3
And
years
this is,
old.
this is something that you can cover in the mid-year budget here.
Mhm.
2011.
Tractor drive, like you're saying, on that last page, 2011,
Mm-hmm.
groundskeeper, and these are funded?
These are funded, yes.
Okay. Since September 2011, groundskeeper, tractor drivers. Now, as you guys know, we're hurting because of the workload, with the levee work that needs to be done, keeping up with the grass. Mr. Nungas was making a push about that and stressing the big demand, but we've got these positions that haven't been filled since 2011. That's 2 years.
Are these jobs actually being, well, you think you don't know, because you're going to provide us a list to see if these jobs are being advertised, so that'll be at the
But
next
if they're not
meeting.
even being advertised, then why aren't you funding it? If you're not even going to advertise for it, we talk about a tractor driver, we should be able to fill the position of a tractor driver. That makes it worse. If you're not even advertising, then that's a problem.
I mean, I think, from what I hear, what I see, I think that you guys might want to consider maybe consolidating some of these jobs and offering a more lucrative type of
Salary.
salary. I think you probably could fill a
Well,
lot.
you can't. The reason you can't,
Well, you can't?
because civil service sets the pay scale, right? And so if you're in that grade, and it's by grades, you have the different grades. So if you're a tractor driver, you fall in a certain grade.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're promoting, creating higher class positions from a tractor driver 1 to a tractor driver 2, and start filling those. But
Even that, $22,000.
Look, yeah, one you for
Well, that's the reason
18,000.
a lot of these positions aren't filled.
Yeah, that's what I was told. That's why I was, my suggestion, but I understand your response to that. There's got to be a way around that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we call them ground engineers.
well,
I think when you get a list of when you advertise, you need to know when you advertise.
some of them are advertised.
But once we get the list of what's being advertised, then we can make a better decision on what we need to do here. Because here all we do here is make assumptions.
I'll look
Because,
into that. I'll look into about the advertising of it. 'Cause I was told that it was being advertised.
Since 2011, we couldn't fill that tractor driver position.
I don't understand. That's a good.
I know there was one, I think it was a real old one, one of the sheets we had gotten. I know a guy personally who had applied for a job. And yet the position was never filled. They just didn't fill the position. Anyway, I've said enough on this.
Okay, we'll move on to the people.
And the last report that I would like to present is our audit of payroll testing.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, just to go over what we've done, we randomly selected 50 payroll transactions during the year and tested all the details of those payroll transactions, making sure that the hours were properly approved, that the pay rates were proper and approved, that all the computations were correct. We found a few minor errors that related to withholding authorizations and computations. They weren't significant. We brought those to the attention of the human resources and payroll departments for correction.
Okay.
Those were basically documentation issues primarily. For example, the withholding allowances on the W-2 form might have been different than what was actually being withheld, or the form might have been missing. And so sometimes those were old employees and the files just hadn't been updated. But other than that, for payroll, we tested the payroll bank reconciliations for the year. We determined that the total payroll for the year fell within the budget that had been approved by the council. We provided the audit committee and council members with the manpower reports that we've just gone over. Every month as we're putting these reports together, we're discussing all these changes with civil service to make sure that they're aware of them and that they're properly documented. So basically, I think we've got pretty good control over payroll. The only other problem we had this year, we normally reconcile the payroll tax returns to the general ledger expense accounts. And we weren't able to do that this year because there were the payroll clerk that normally prepares those reports left toward the end of the year, and some of those reports hadn't been completed yet.
So we got a new payroll.
So we've got a new payroll person in. We did reasonableness tests to offset that, and as well as the outside auditors did reasonableness tests to compensate for the fact that we weren't able to reconcile to those payroll tax reports.
Okay. Mr. Turner?
Yes.
We had an issue early during the year that we settled a lawsuit because of withholdings, is my understanding, if I remember it correctly. Was that an isolated case, or is that the only one that was filed?
You know, I'm not aware of the particular case. There was one at the end of the year where we had to pay somebody some back pay. And I'm not aware of what that dispute was. I just know that there was a settlement from the legal department that where they agreed on the amount of back pay. We paid that back pay, and yes, that was an isolated occurrence. That's the only one I'm aware of like that.
The reason I'm bringing that up is because, you know, sometimes people find a loophole in the system, and it ends up costing us money we have to pay. But if it's something that we fail to do, or just an honest oversight, and some people were due funds and we shorted them, or we didn't do something properly, not because we had ill motives or just, you know, derelicting our duty, anything, but an oversight for whatever reason. If some of our people did not get what they received, then, and because it happened in one case, we should test it and see if it happened to anybody else, and if it did, then we do the right thing. We don't wait when we don't pray that they don't find it. As a matter of fact, if we're going to be a good company, right, we want to do right by our people, we find it, we go look for it. We've got an auditor, you know, we should, as a council, we should be looking for it. And I'm hoping that, you know, I kind of felt sometimes that, you know, certain things had surfaced, and because we we don't wanna pay, it's gonna cost us, and that we say, well, and this is just an impression, you know, that the attitude is, you know, almost don't let the cat out the bag, or because this might cost us. But if we owe people, or if we didn't give them all they were due, then what makes us good is that when we still do the right thing, even if it costs us, and if they would do it, they shouldn't have to get a lawyer and sue us to get something that they would do.
I know, in reference to that case, I know 2 other employees who was hired around the same time frame. That particular individual is also looking back to see if they was shortchanged. You know, so I don't know if that's gonna be another issue, but it could be, you know, so they're looking back over payroll records.
And what I'm getting at is, you know, the bottom line is we should do the right thing as a company. We should do the right thing. And if we made a mistake, or, you know, if we handled something not in the best way, there's nothing to go to.
And I think in general, we're trying to do the right thing. I don't know the specifics of this one case.
I think we do as we go forward.
How could we how could we check on that, whether or not, I know you did a random sampling, but how can we check to see if, you know, some of these employees that have been here for 20, 30 years, that their deductions were not taken properly? Or if they were taken, but they were not deposited properly? I mean, we had that situation involved deductions that were taken out that were never deposited. You know, so when she comes to get her social security retirement, they're looking at her and saying, hey, you don't have all your money in there. How could, is there any checks and balances to that effect?
The Human Resources Department is supposed to be keeping track of all of those deductions. We look at it on a test basis, and we didn't find any of those types of deductions that you're talking about, that they weren't done properly.
Well, I think, you know, and I'm talking off the top of my head, because I don't specifically remember all the details, but it looked like, it appeared that it was deducted, but it never was, or the money was never deposited where it should have been. And that was what happened to that money? That's the question.
That money was sitting in the general fund?
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons that we reconcile the payroll tax reports for the general ledgers. We're trying to make sure that the payroll tax deposits are properly made. As far as Social Security is concerned, very few of our employees have Social Security deductions. You know, they're on the parish's retirement plan for the state of Louisiana. There have been some minor cases in the past where that did get screwed up, you know, as far as Social Security was concerned, where somebody had made some election and hadn't been properly accounted for by the Human Resources Department. You know, there's been turnover in that department, so a lot of that history is lost. But I think if there's a problem there, it's very isolated. I don't think it's a significant problem.
It might not be today, Jim, but at one time, I believe at one time it was just by the case that we had. And so it's what happened, not under your watch.
Yeah, what were the details of the case? How far did it go back?
Well, I don't think we should discuss that
No, but
particular case.
we need to know the time frame to look at the people who were involved, who might have been in the same situation. Well, we need to do an internal investigation to find out what happened. We need to do an internal investigation.
Okay, I became aware of the situation basically just by looking at bank reconciliations and seeing a whole bunch of checks to one guy, and I said, what is this all about? And then I found documentation where the settlement had been approved by the legal department. The documentation didn't give the reasons, probably because of privacy concerns. But
my request, Mr. Leo, that you would give him enough information so that he can research it and and determine if other people were affected also, and people who feel they might have been affected. I think some people know they were affected and, struggling with lawyers and all of this, but it shouldn't come to that. So what the message needs to be out there, if you feel that you were, I don't use the word victim, but that this might have happened to you, then let us know so we can check to confirm.
I'll pull it, because I'd like to get some clarity on it too. And especially if we're gonna deal with that, potentially other people, I'd like to, be ahead of the curve.
How would you look at your department, instead of those people getting a lawyer and coming and talk to you, if you go to them in advance and say,
Oh, I'd
here's
love
what we
to do
discovered?
Yeah.
So they would think you're a hero.
Yeah, I'd love to.
You would be a hero.
Save them a lot of money.
All right. Mr. Russo?
I'm listening to the conversation, and I think I understand what we're talking about. And it's the appropriation that was made at a recent meeting in the tune of $190,000. I think what really needs to be done before you go searching for more people to give checks to is that you need to look at the details of what happened in this particular case. Because in my opinion, there's been no legal claim made during my tenure. I haven't seen a lawsuit against this parish to make that settlement that y'all made. And what I'm surmising happened is not good. Because the other employees that y'all are talking about have contacted me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the issue needs very close scrutiny as to what really went on. Because I didn't see a lawsuit. And was there a lawsuit to settle $190,000?
I do not recall that. I'll find
And,
out. I'll pull it.
when it happened, I went to the microphone at the meeting and asked the question, was this the employee's portion and the government's portion to go to the retirement system?
Mm-hmm.
And I never got an answer. But if we're buying people's time when they were part-time employees on the payroll, there are a whole lot of employees in that same category. And I'm not saying that what this particular case is, but from what other employees have told me, it looks like it. And I know the comment that was made went back years. Well, I've been here in the past, my 16 years, it didn't come up. And it was never brought an issue to the table to resolve. So, before you decide to go again and look for employees to write more checks to that are in the same situation, you need to find out what happened in this one.
I got you.
It's not just a matter of looking for employees to write more checks to, it's a matter of making sure that we're right by our employees. If we owe them, it's making a determination whether or not something is legit.
Yeah, Mr. Turner,
If somebody got over, that's why I'm saying, sometimes, some people will find a loophole. Well, if this was a loophole, that's one thing. But I think it's enough to raise the flag for us to look at it and make sure that we're doing right by our people. And that's the message I'm trying to send.
Okay.
I'll definitely revisit it, because I'd like to have some clarity on it. I'll definitely revisit it.
Was the amount that was appropriated, did that have to do with retirement?
I think it was.
I don't remember the
Because
details.
the one that I was talking about,
That was a different issue.
this employee got something like 20 checks for, it looked like for back pay, and it was a little under $800, so it's probably, what I was talking about is probably totally different from this situation.
Let's do this. Let's do this. We don't want to get too much involved with that.
I'll look into it.
Mr. Peoples and Mr.
Leo,
Plaza,
we'll-
we all get
we'll
together.
Find out.
And then we could readdress
Right.
it next year.
And then you can fill him in, and then he
I'll
can
fill them in.
look into
I'll
that.
find out.
Mr. People, you have anything else?
That's all I have, under old business, we've got Mr. Nielsen.
Yeah, we got Mr. Nelson here. There were some questions that was asked about the NFI, the way things are done with the credit, I believe, or whatever it was. I know Mr. Russell had asked a couple of questions, and I think one of them particularly was in reference to Oakville Park. I don't have that information in front of me, but Mr. Russell, I know your mind is clear on that.
Well, my question was, on the NFIP reductions and the list that was distributed at some of the public meetings, some of the playgrounds had like $1 million as an NFIP reduction.
Correct. And what was circulated there was a FEMA-produced list of NFIP reductions. We did find some errors on those. The PW numbers were right, but the description of what that PW was wasn't necessarily correct on each one. This is a new FEMA-generated list, which is basically the same numbers. There may be a few changes based on obligations that are, have been made recently. But I know what Mr. Roussel's talking about, one showed up as a fence and all like that.
Right.
So we asked FEMA to rerun the list, you know, with the, and when we went back and checked it, we found the PW number corresponded with the correct NFIP reduction, but the description they put for what that PW was, for instance, you know, I think what was called that fence at Arlington Park,
Right.
whatever it was actually a community center. You know, some things like that. So the list that was generated before did have errors on the description of the PW, but the PW number and the reduction amount were correct.
That's correct. Okay. I have another question in reference to somebody named Mike something. What was his name?
There were some questions, I think, about how we
Mr.
receive
Mike Gaffney.
reimbursements for Mike Gaffney, and
Mike
also
Gaffney.
how FEMA reimburses us for all sales charges.
As far as all sales work, there's a PW specific to our program management tasks. And that we're reimbursed based on that PW. Mike Gaffney is an attorney who works for the parish.
Excuse me, that PW would be a public record. Would the administration have a copy of that? Who has a copy of that PW?
Yeah, they would have a copy of it, yeah.
How does that work? Is it ongoing?
Yeah, basically, you know, as our reimbursement, or the cap on our reimbursement is based on the active PW. So as new PWs get obligated, those amounts go up, they'll write a version to our PW, increasing that cap.
And y'all get a percentage of that? Is that what?
It's a loose percentage, but it's not exactly like, you know, 9% every time. It kind of fluctuates based on the amount of particular PW. Smaller PWs, it's a bigger percentage. Larger PWs, it's a
Smaller
smaller
percentage. Well, who is this Mike Gaffney fellow?
Mike Gaffney is an
Gaffney.
attorney who works for the parish on FEMA-related issues. He does appeals for the parish. He does reimbursement requests for the parish. There's some lawsuits associated with construction contracts that were FEMA funded, which he's assisted the legal department in, things like that.
Who do he work for?
No,
He
it
work
works for himself.
on your staff?
No, because it's own
Okay, so he's a consultant firm that's hired by the parish.
Correct.
That's paid by FEMA, right?
Correct. Well, he's paid by the parish, but
But
we're
reimbursed
FEMA
by
funded.
FEMA?
Reimbursement. I met him, short guy, real short guy. You know? And he's aggressive type of guy.
Does that contract come before us, or that contract come before us, or it was just appointed by Bill?
That contract come before the
Before us?
council?
I don't
You know?
I don't know.
The guy was there before I was, so.
Can you find out?
It's,
Can you find out about his contract? How it went?
Sure, I don't even know, hopefully he's got a contract.
It's complete.
well, I don't have that file with me now, but there was a contract a number of years ago that was updated 2 or 3 times. We had some questions about that at a previous meeting. I don't remember the details of that right now, but I'll get with Leo and we'll look at that for the next meeting.
Okay.
Jen, just to go over it real quick, I just, for my knowledge, it gives us the category, the PW number, it gives us the description, the damage category. It will say a letter, B, E, or G. What does that mean?
A and B are emergency
Okay.
items like debris,
That would-
demolitions, things like that.
Okay.
C through G are categories for permanent works, buildings, contents.
So that would come secondary.
vehicle equipment.
That, Like the other ones are more important, what we saying A and B?
No, they're just, I guess they have different rules that apply to them, different,
Okay. All right, the first category, pre-reduction prorate, is that what that means?
that's the PW amount prior to the NFIP reduction.
Okay,
So if you look at,
what it was,
Harris Auditorium,
okay,
that PW is obligated an amount of 5.5 million,
okay,
and
That's what-
has a 500,000 NFIP reduction.
What line you looking at?
right there, was 1682?
1682.
The first one with
With
500,000.
a reduction, okay.
NFIP reduction.
So FEMA gave us $5.5 million for that project, and then penalized us $500,000?
Right, so you know, the parish at the end of the day will receive reimbursement in the amount of 5.1 million.
Okay. All right, that's how I wanna be able to read this, because I've gotten it before, and there was a little confusion. Now
Now,
turn,
the total of this right now is just under 27 million.
right,
There are some, reductions on here that
Mhm.
can appeal, such as, at a certain point,
right.
FEMA, eliminated the reductions on emergency response facilities.
Okay.
such
So the first column is what, the pre-reduction, let me get this right, that's what FEMA gave us or allocated?
Right, that's the eligible amount.
Okay, well, can we turn to the last page, the very last page? On number 20086, the Braithwaite Golf Course and Club, public building. FEMA gave us almost $4 million for that,
Yeah.
okay? And they took out 5, 6, 6, 7. Where did that money go to? It wasn't rebuilt.
But from getting ready to ask my question.
I need to look up that specific project. Off the top of my head, I think that's an alternate project.
Okay, was that money directed to another project?
Yes. If
Okay.
it's an alternate project, that's what.
Okay,
we've done.
then it would be another PW number?
No, that PW would just be deemed an alternate project.
Okay, and that can be done.
And that would be associated with a specific, you know, like a donor,
Okay,
what
well,
project
I
are we
have a
looking
question about that, no
Look
offense.
at the top, look at the top of the break,
Yeah,
we got
I'm
two.
looking at a lot of these, but that's just one question that I have. I'm looking at $4 million, and of course, they wanna take 567 back to this 26 million. So where was that money generated to? And then I wanna go through here and
I
look, and,
guess the question, let me interrupt just a second.
okay,
Do we have a list of the alternate projects?
I don't have it here, but
Because
there is a list of.
Can you get us the list of
Yeah.
alternate projects? And so when we have the list of alternate projects, then we should be able to match it up. As a matter of fact, why don't you just add it to this spreadsheet, just like you have the name, just insert a column with the alternate project, what the alternate project is. Instead of working us where we got one sheet with alternate projects, we gotta look at the number and then go see what the original was.
Yeah, I can see if we can manipulate this. I'm not that familiar with this spreadsheet, because we didn't create it, but it should be able to be done. I'm not sure if we got this as a PDF or in Excel. If it's in Excel, we can add it.
okay.
If it's a PDF, then,
These are all the PWs currently.
yeah,
Some of these,
And what period?
Katrina PW.
some of these will not be done, like the golf course.
Correct.
It's not, so those, the ones that won't be done will go, those funds will go into another
Project?
Project.
source. Let's say there's 50 of them that add up to $100 million. That $100 million will go into alternative projects. All right?
Well, each individual PW gets applied to a particular project as an alternate. It's not a pool of cash that you just draw off of.
So, let me give an example. Let me ask, on this right here, where's the Port Southwood tennis court?
Is it on here, or you hadn't found it?
It's on, yeah, I think this, you know,
Toxic treatment plant.
You looking for the reports also?
Yes,
Tennis court.
I'm starting from the back.
What'd you call it, post office what?
Tennis court.
Tennis court? Civic Center,
What's up, playing field?
post office fire station, post
But let me ask you
office,
this,
okay, golf course?
Going through there.
That's a golf course?
It was a golf course.
About the third page, you see PW number 4612, it says consolidated project, PW 2487, and then program is not extended out to be able to get that. So this list may contain what you're already asking for. If you look at down at that.
What number are you referring to?
4612.
Mhm.
Page 34612, if you look there, it says consolidated projects, PW 2487, and whatever the other PWs were that made that consolidated project. It's just that the print form that we're in didn't extend over the column.
2487 was the Bureau's Community Center for 8 million.
2487?
4612?
Yeah, I got you.
46.
2487?
On the third page.
4612.
Consolidated Community Center.
It's saying consolidated
8
projects,
million
but in parentheses, it says PW 2487, which you look back at 2487 is the Bureau's replacement, Bureau's Consolidated Community Center, $8 million.
But they don't tell you what was consolidated. They tell you where the money went, I guess.
Must have overlooked it, so start from about the second to last page.
Last page?
Ah,
18,732.
right, the 139.
I can recall some PWs that covered a number of different projects, so that's not necessarily money that's being transferred from one to another.
Right, the consolidated buildings, like the community centers, when each donor building had its own PW, then they created a new PW that money went into.
When there's a deduction on here for more than 500,000, like on the very first page, the building repair, the Bluefield Community Center, how come it's $1.5 million?
Yeah, I thought it only capped at 5.
Well, that,
500,000.
the community centers is a consolidated project, which 3 donor buildings went into. So that
No,
is,
No, not the one in Boothville, because Boothville already they had a community center.
yeah, but the larger, the square footage of 3 separate buildings were combined to get that.
I don't believe,
It was, yeah. I can get you which
buildings
ones
from
up.
where? Because I know the buildings from Port Sulphur were taken for the one in Beerus. It went to Beerus.
I don't know off the top of my head which buildings went to which, but that's a combination of 3 buildings. And that's why the reduction is $1.5 million. It's 3 buildings and 500,000.
We need a better description than what we have here. We have the original projects. Next to it, we need to know what are now the alternate projects for that PW.
Yeah,
And that should be,
I understand
it
what
shouldn't
you're
be that difficult. I mean, we should be able to look at this and know where the money went for the projects. It's not just in the air, and because it has to go to a specific project, we stated that.
right.
And so, when we look at this, because this can be deceiving, but when we're looking at this might not even get the project anymore. The money's already moved somewhere else.
So you know where it moved to.
Right, that should be on this sheet.
Well, what you might be able to do is just to insert a column where the money's been moved to a new project, and then print this out on a legal sheet instead of a letter.
Well, like I said, we can definitely, if this was sent as an Excel file, we can definitely add additional columns. If it wasn't, then we can create something else that has that information.
Yeah, I think it'd be easier if you did it on a legal sheet and just put another column where everything's moved. It's moved, so we see it all.
Yeah, I'd like to get a copy of the alternate projects.
Mhm.
So if you've got one, let's say Port South Tennis Court, and it was moved to 3 other projects, and so you would have that line, and then you would have the 3 other projects, and then you go to the next one. But then you can associate every alternative project as to where the money came from.
Can you do that?
Yeah,
In other
and
words-
y'all have been given that list in the past.
No, can you do what he said? Let's assume that you have a project, it's $1 million project that's not gonna be done. Can you take that $1 million and put it to 3 separate alternate projects?
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want with it.
Right.
Is that
what would you?
And the way the alternate project list
And
is set up,
who has been approving the alternate project list?
I mean, the administration is the one who requests alternate projects through FEMA.
Jen, I got a question. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
So
Mr.
that- well, just so you would know, like, going solo, the parish president, because he's the signature on the, public assistance application without council approval, just almost at the whim, as long as they prepare the paperwork. That's why we don't know which project, whether money has been shifted. But when everything is reported out, you know, if we're doing what's right, that information should slap us in the face and these were the original projects, and these are the new projects.
And that information has been provided in the past.
Yeah, but it's piecemeal.
No, there's an alternate project list, which has the original project, building, whatever it is, and where it's designated to.
Okay, well then that should be easy for you to give to us then again, if that's,
Yeah,
that already
no,
exists.
that's what I'm saying, we have that, we'll give it to you.
Okay. Question?
Jen, can you tell me what this means? Just on 15108. Non-gases / Carville temporary water and electricity, $500,000.
15, what you say?
15108, 15108.
Non-just according to temporary water and electricity.
Almost $500,000.
$492,000.
I'll have to get specifics on that, I don't know what that's gonna be used.
Okay. So the PW issued for that.
Who's Corbill, you know?
I think I know who that is, but I'm not gonna say it.
Okay.
I mean, was it a reimbursement? I'm just trying to figure out what that was.
I'll look it up and let you
Okay.
know.
One other question is, flood reduction column, is that all just due to not carrying flood insurance on the buildings?
Is that-
or is there any other reason?
I guess
for the
that's my
flood
question.
reduction?
No,
That's the penalty?
yeah, that's a penalty for lack of flood.
But that's, this entire column consists of those penalties, or
Yeah,
no other reduction?
no other reductions show up in there.
Now, let me ask you a question, Jen. We build or rebuild a project. We don't carry flood insurance again. It gets damaged by another storm. Will they rebuild it, or will they do the same thing and charge us?
Well, that is an area that goes up and FEMA are negotiating right now, because the way there's, Department of Insurance waiver that parishes can apply for, do apply for. Because basically, to carry the insurance FEMA wants you to carry on all the facilities in the parish, your budget isn't big enough. It would be,
Right.
you know, 50% of your annual budget. So, GOSAP and FEMA agreed on a certain percentage of your annual budget that you have to spend on insurance. Once you reach that number, you know, you get a waiver on insurance above that. So, based on Isaac, that's the first time this really has come into play, and FEMA is looking at how they're gonna handle it now. You know, the parish.
And in
has
lieu
no
of
requirements.
the flood insurance going up too, that's what I'm
Right.
saying.
So, I guess it's new territory now, that the first disaster that, it's really arisen. So FEMA and GOSAP are really ironing that out right now.
So with that in mind, that's something new to me. But with that in mind, think about it. So just because you add buildings,
Right.
as far as out of pocket, it's almost like you reach a cap based on that percentage that, you know, of your budget is what it amounts to.
Correct.
And then, you know, we can become, you know, self-insured. But if you paid your portion in, if you've maxed out. So now it's not like every single building, because I've been told, Mr. Turner, we can't afford the insurance on this one. Or it's gonna raise the insurance. What I'm hearing today, there is a cap.
There is a cap, yeah.
Do we have documentation?
How much the cap
of what
is?
that number
It
is?
depends on, it's based on a percentage of our budget.
Of the budget?
Sigma
And
has
he
it.
didn't say what that
You know, the
percentage
insurance
is.
consultant. I don't know that number. How it relates to the.
Maybe we could
Let
check
me
it.
ask, do you have an understanding that if the government pays that cap, the maximum amount, then we would not be exposed to these reductions?
Correct.
My concern is.
Wait, say that again?
That's
For the future,
Yes,
For the future?
for the future, not going back.
Oh, not going back.
That's what.
Wait, how
But if we don't
how
even
you
know
say
what that
that?
cap is, we may be paying
Right,
more than that.
we don't,
cap.
right, you
But the
don't.
administration knows because they're negotiating it. He
No,
says, "We don't
excuse me,
know."
what you say, how you say that just now?
Would you,
What I was saying was, if you have a cap, let's say it's a $10 million cap for insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Once you reach that cap, you might have to insure $30 million.
Mhm.
They say, well, you only have to come up with 10.
Right,
That will cover all the buildings, so there will be no penalty for you.
right.
That's what you're telling me, right? That's your understanding?
In the future,
In the
not,
future, in the
not
future.
waiving the
Not
one
waiving.
Katrina ones now.
Okay.
So just because we, we have all of these grand buildings and more coming online, we can't say, well, we won't be able to, the federal government won't help us rebuild them, just because it's not insured. That's not necessarily true. If we have so much insurance that we've already tapped a certain percentage of our budget.
Mm-hmm.
Does the cap relate to coverage or to the total premiums paid?
The cap relates to a percentage of your annual budget.
Okay.
I'll look at
So
it.
if we pay premiums up to that percent, then.
And
we
then
should be
you
covered.
apply for a waiver on the remaining.
Oh, you have to
through the
apply for the
Department of
waiver
Insurance,
too.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
good, huh?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wasn't this parish self-insured one time?
Up to, we had $1 million,
$1 million?
but at the time, most of the buildings were uninsured. I mean, the courthouse, you couldn't get insurance on it, you know.
Hmm.
We got shut down with the fire code.
I guess.
But, I mean, for the investment that the federal government made in all the buildings, you got hundreds of millions of dollars of buildings for the deductible of so forth, whatever it is, 27 million. If you would've took the assets and added them up before Katrina, 27 million, you would've been in the buildings worth 26 million. I don't know what the fixed asset inventory was at the time, I don't know, you remember, Jim?
No.
Could be 60 million, whatever it was. But you got new buildings now,
Mm, right,
so
yeah.
makes a big difference when they're up in the air, island.
Mm.
And there are some reductions on here that are being appealed. Like I mentioned earlier, they're showing $1 million, just under $1 million reduction on the Fort Sulphur Fire and EMS. That's an emergency response facility, so it shouldn't be hit. And then there's some other facilities which are considered or uninsurable. So you shouldn't be hit a penalty on something that was uninsurable.
I look at, I don't know
Treatment
exactly,
plans.
yeah, I don't know where it's at on here, I saw it, but it was, in reference to Breakway Firehouse Station, was 200 and some thousand, and then, flood deduction was 200 and some thousand. How could that be?
You saying the PW?
Was only
Mhm.
two
Well,
hundred
they're
thousand?
saying you had 200 something thousand in damage, and the reduction was 200 something thousand dollars
So that's the penalty?
in penalties, correct. Had you had, say, 700,000 in damages,
Mhm.
penalties would have been 500 and you got 200. But since you didn't reach that maximum, you basically were getting nothing.
Like after they get no reimbursement for Breakway Firehouse. All right.
No, again, to clarify, Jen, NFIP is structure only. What I'm saying is, say, contents or,
And contents is separate, and contents get hit another 500,000 dollars.
so they do, it's not just a structure. Because I guess that's what,
And
I
if
was,
you look on here,
I guess that's what I'm getting confused at, because when I was first initiated, I thought it was just a structure or a building or,
No, 'cause there's some buildings that got a $500,000 penalty for the structure and a $500,000 penalty.
cause I'm on
for-
3340, contents, equipment, Ports Off golf course. 172,983 they gave us, but then they penalized us $80,000.
And where did that money go, being that,
I mean, the golf course is no longer, huh?
yeah, but where did the money go? It should have gone to an alternate project, that's when we shift to an alternate project. So what was that project?
Well, I guess we're
And
gonna,
what was the PW amount?
I'm just saying, I was,
What was that number?
I would, number 3340. So I guess that's what I'm saying, I was confused that it wasn't a permanent structure or any kind of structure. So this is telling me they also can do contents or equipment.
Yeah, contents are separate, equipment separate.
I mean, I guess you would have insurance on that, or, that's a,
You should have
I
insurance
mean,
on
yeah,
content.
you know,
I
your
have
flood
a- we have
insurance
a-
specifies structure and content separately.
okay.
Is there a formula that they use when they deduct it, the percentage?
Yeah, but they don't disclose what it is.
That's a surprise.
They don't tell you? the percentage?
No, they don't break this out in exactly how it's calculated.
I tried to sit down with the gentleman, he wouldn't even sit down and talk to me about it, so.
You got a signal?
I went through a bunch of channels, I got them all written down, but they would not talk with me. So, and I guess that's what, my concern is how did they base that evaluation or determination on what is what and how much to take off? That's, I guess, as I said, they'll never disclose their formula, I guess, that secret.
They have it up to this point.
Right.
I thought there was one time it was up to 10% of the value, up to 500,000.
Now, Jen, the 26 million is what we on the hook for. We have paid them 9 million, or non, so what's that column? I'm sorry. That third column, anticipated insurance, on the last page.
26 million.
Yeah, it's just something that they're showing the parish got insurance proceeds on.
Okay.
So how much do we presently owe NFIP people, you know?
Then we pay some on,
Y'all have allocated, I think, a little over 20 million toward NFIP.
so we really roughly owe about 6 million
Yeah,
from this figure.
yeah. Minus any, you know, the
And
parish is still petitioning to have it waived altogether.
Okay, right, that
And
was my next question.
There's some specific ones being appealed as uninsurable. And like I said, there's $1 million, which I think is a no-brainer. They're still showing on the, what's off of fire and EMS.
What's the heading for each column, that last one, part of it's cut off, so what's that heading?
Total insurance
I
debt,
would guess deductible.
deducted,
Deducted.
they don't have nothing in the column, though.
I would think deductible, because if you did have insurance,
Yeah, okay.
they would show the deductible on what you're paying out of pocket.
So, let's look at the finals, the sums, the different sums, and how everything meshes. So pre-reduction at the third column, pre-reduction, what's the words that's cut off?
Prorated, or is that pro something?
Hey, can you get us a copy that lets us,
Yeah, yeah.
so we know what we're looking at? Pre-reduction, what's that column? I guess, 1, 2, 3, the fourth column next to damage category. And is there any other
Anticipated
wording
insurance?
under damage category? Is that the end of that column, damage
I don't
category?
know. Like I said, it's in my spreadsheet. I just printed it as it came over.
Okay.
And I'll look to see if it, again, if it's a PDF or whether it's an Excel file where I can see the whole thing.
Even if it's not, then, we need.
And I can request it from them in
Right.
whole.
So these columns, there's the anticipated insurance, and at the end, there's,
Total insurance.
is that 9,000 or is
Yeah,
that
no,
millions?
It's $9,000.
$9,000.
Anticipated insurance,
And that looks to be from the council office in Belchase. Six sheets.
That's number 5154.
and what does this column mean?
That means this is, I take that to be a building y'all actually had insurance on and got proceeds on.
Okay, and then the last column, that's the exact same number.
Yes.
What,
That's the only
so
one.
that's a total deductible, okay.
Hey,
What the hell is district code? 25th district code. Got almost a
And so
million
how does
dollars.
that total reduction relate to the flood reduction?
Number's
Is there any-
19365.
What's your question?
The last column, does it relate to the column just before it in any way?
It's the second left page.
Flood reduction,
The
9367?
$9,200.
19.
9256 and the
365.
26831, are they to be combined?
District 2050
Help me understand. Is there any correlation, any relationship in those
almost
two
$1 million
columns?
to what?
Talking about,
Last page. Yeah, he's taking care of these two columns.
This,
So they're saying they're not gonna pay us that, and I guess they're not gonna pay us that either, is that what they're saying?
probably so, yeah.
so instead of it being 26, is it really 35?
No, that's $9,000.
The other
Oh,
column,
that's a
26
million.
million.
Okay.
Jen, go to number 19365,
Second to last page.
25th District Court.
What was the actual number?
19365.
Yeah, 19365. 25th District Court, almost $1 million to a building, I mean, the courtroom or,
What was it?
Was that the building in Diamond?
I'm checking that.
It couldn't be the
Yeah,
courthouse.
that's a big project.
It couldn't be the courthouse.
that's what?
It's an emergency item, it's listed as a big
It
project.
says, look at the B project, right, but what, temporary court, I mean, did it,
Yeah, could be the temporary board.
900 some thousand there.
I'll have to research that one.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing at this stage, James, we don't wanna have to keep, you shouldn't have to keep coming back. At this stage, the descriptions, everything should be clear. You come one time, you say, here's what you have, here's everything, and then we should be able to take it from there. But if you give it to us in a piecemeal version, then it's like we never fully understand it. We get one part and we kind of move on. But it needs to be a clear picture. It's not a clear picture right now.
And look at 19186, recreational or other. You got $3 million some dollars.
which one? I'm sorry.
19186
recreational or other,
or other.
kinda vague, huh?
These PWs, how can we get a synopsis of each PW or the PW itself?
I mean, Mr. Bill Sarpaz has access to the LAPA, where you can print them off of it.
All right, Mr. Peoples, make a request to Mr. Surpass to give us a copy of each PW. Will you also have the alternate projects?
I have that, I'm gonna get y'all that.
All right. Any other statements or questions or statements or whatever?
I got one question on, 19842. Fire Seat School Run Project is an alternate project in the production of $1 million. Is that a project that might be in the appeal process through the town building, or is it the Fire Seat School Run project?
What's the number?
19,
What number,
now?
sir?
It's number 19842.
Yeah, that's the
19,842.
alternate project. $2 million.
Now that, and I have to remember the details. There was a project, when Mr. Freeman was in office, where he wanted to use FEMA money for a certain project. I don't recall what it was, off the top of my head. And it wasn't directly eligible. So what they did, they took, and I don't remember what it was through the alternate project process or whatever, money from another project in his district, and took capital money from the sewer line project and applied it to whatever project it was.
But still,
There's a resolution to what
What's
it
the explanation on this project right here? The Robertson project.
Well, I'm saying based on that, they probably wrote a PW reconciling how that money was spent from one project to the other.
Who would be they as writing the PW? FEMA?
Correct.
Wait, say that again? Ask your question, 'cause I want you to answer. Ask-
I said, who would be they?
As far as writing the PW.
PW.
Yes.
FEMA?
You said
FEMA, yes.
FEMA writes the PW, we write the PW.
That's-
FEMA writes the PW.
So FEMA writes the
Request
P-
the PW. To be with,
We request it, they write it.
yeah,
Is that correct? I mean,
parish not writing PW.
But my question, I guess, was the $1 million deduction. You know, if, is that a category that, would be exempt from deduction?
No, what I'm saying is, the project that money came from wasn't the sewer line. But that money was applied toward, as an alternate toward the sewer line project.
So it was not.
So the La Receipt sewer line project wasn't the damage.
So there might have been a building somewhere,
Right,
or two buildings somewhere.
Yeah.
Two for the $1 million. it went
and they were
into-
applied to the La Receipt sewer line project.
Right, that's why it should be clear, you know, this Lauracy project, is that an alternate project? Yeah, it says alternate project next to it. Okay, you gonna?
Any more questions?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I got an action item for Mr. Peoples. Could you check into something for me? I'd like to know, I'll get a list of who would have a vehicle, take-home vehicle, who is assigned to a vehicle, parish-wide. Would we have that?
I think there is such a list,
Okay.
yes. I've looked at it in the past. Yeah,
And
they
I'd
would
like
have
to
that.
know where and,
They should be able to account for all of our equipment.
trucks, cars, vans, whatever.
All golden stop.
Whatever one has a take-home or a vehicle, I guess not per se a vehicle they come to work to use. I don't know how you'll be able to decipher that.
I think they have a list of all vehicles and they indicate which ones are
Okay.
take-home vehicles.
I'd like to get a list of that. Thank you.
All right. We discussed old business, we looked at a few new business, any new business? If none, approval of minutes,
We had the February 25th, 2013 meeting, the March 11th, 2013 meeting, and the May 13th, 2008.
okay, we got to do roll
Make a
call.
motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
Mr. Turner,
I second. Second motion.
second motion, it's been motioned and moved by, who made the motion, me?
No, I made the motion.
Made the motion.
Alright,
Second by Mr. Turner, roll call. Mr.
Okay.
Turner,
Yes.
Mr. Lapine,
yes.
Griffin, yes. If there's no business to bring before the audit committee, I entertain a motion to dismiss.
Second motion, adjourn.
Okay, you wanna call it?
Mr. Griffin,
Here? Yes. I mean,
Mr. Levine.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
the audit committee meeting is dismissed at 8:09.